Erev Shabbos, everybody. Welcome back once again to the weekly Shir in Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Gershon Afton here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Today's Shir, we're going to be learning the first Mishnah of Perek Dalid, the fourth Perek of Pirkei Avos. And this is the first time, the first cycle of learning of Pirkei Avos this year in Tavshin Pei Vav. The Fabrenger, the Mashpia of our Mishnah, is Ben Zoima, and we're going to be speaking a little bit about him, his history, and what he tells us. But this Shabbos is also the Shabbos right before Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is obviously connected to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. It's also connected to Rebbe Akiva and Avos Yisrael, and the terrible Gzeira of the 24,000 Talmidim of Rebbe Akiva that passed away. And we obviously are going to try to focus on something that will, Amir Hashem, help us add in our Avos Yisrael, because that is the goal that we should be adding in our Avos Yisrael. And one of the things that really prevent Avos Yisrael is the chasing after kavod. If people would not take their kavod so seriously, if people would realize that there's room for somebody else, maybe our Avos Yisrael would be a step higher, maybe would be on a better level. So our main focus is going to be about proper kavod. What does it mean to attain proper kavod? Now, the Mashpia, the Fabrenger, the teacher of our Mishnah is Ben Zoima, which it's interesting that according to Kabbalah, Ben Zoima is the Sfira of Hoid, which is the Sfira of this week. We just started today, Chesed Shebahoid, the 29th day of the Omer, Chesed Shebahoid, so it's very appropriate that we are speaking about Ben Zoima. He also was very close to Rebbe Akiva. We know that Rebbe Akiva, there were 4 people that went into the Pardes, the secrets of the Torah. Only Rebbe Akiva came out fully fine, but one of the 4 was Ben Zoima. So he obviously was on a high level, which was close to Rebbe Akiva. He passed away very young, and that's why he's not called by his first name. We call him by the name of his father. His name was Shimon ben Zoima. Why we don't call him by his first name is either the Mefarshim say because he passed away because he was young, or because he didn't yet attain the level of smicha to be called rabbi, so they just called him on his father's name. And there are other people that give a more balabatisha answer, that at that time in the Beis Medrash, there were a bunch of prize high-level Talmidim called Shimon, like Shimon ben Zoima, ben Azai, and we can't call them by their first name. Like, think about it, a lot of times, I remember we once had a class in yeshiva where 24 out of 26 Talmidim name were Menachem Mendel or something like that. So you can't call somebody Menachem Mendel because that's the whole class. So you end up either calling them by their last name or something, or their nuanced name. So therefore the Chachamim, they didn't know what to do. They can't say Shimon. So they ended up calling them Ben Azai or Ben Zoima, basically referencing their father, which would make them one distinct than the next. And for that's how their name stuck. But whatever the reason, Ben Zoima was a very, very intelligent person. He was a big chacham. As a matter of fact, the Gemara says in Brachis that if you have a dream of Ben Zoima coming to you in a dream, this is Gemara in Brachis, Nun Zayin Amud Beis, Yitzape l'chachma, you should await to receive high level of wisdom, because Ben Zoima was a symbol of wisdom. He was also very, very rich. He testifies about himself that I wake up in the morning and I find all the workers and all the various people in business coming to my door. And Rashi says, why were they coming to his door? Ashir Haya, he was very rich. Everyone wanted to do business with Ben Zoima. So he was a wealthy person. He was a very rich person. He was a very, very wise person. And the Gemara says about him that when he passed away, Batlu Hadarshonim, the creative mind, the Darshonim, we were left without the creative Darshonim. So he obviously understood what it means to be rich, wise, bright, and have kavod. Obviously, such a person was well respected. And that's why he took upon himself this tremendous chesed to redefine for Klal Yisrael, give them a paradigm shift of what does it mean to be a proper chacham? What is Ezu? What's a real chacham? What's a real ashir? What's a real gibor? Because these are attributes that everyone wants to be considered a chacham, a gibor, an ashir. Those are naturally respected in the world. And Ben Zoyma does us the greatest favor by redefining and giving us a shift in mindset about what to properly look for in a chacham, in a gibor, in a ashir. And to me, probably one of the most important ones is the fourth one, hence the main topic of today's shir. Ezehu mechubad, who is considered respected, where what's proper kavod. Hamechabed es habriya is somebody that shows respect to others. By showing respect to others, that's the way you attain your own proper kavod. Now he brings a proof for his novel idea that kavod is attained by giving kavod, not about chasing after kavod. And he brings a pasuk, shenemar, like it says in the pasuk. This pasuk is in Shmuel Aleph, Perik Beis, called Mechabdei Achabed. The Torah, it's really talking about Hashem. In that part of the Navi, Hashem was very upset with the Bnei Eli, the sons of Eli, the Kohen Gadol. And they instituted a little bit of a mafia-style operation in the Beis HaMikdash, whereas the Kehanim, they took parts of the animals and other things of the karbanos, which they really should not have taken. It really didn't belong to them, but because they were the ruling class of the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan at the time, so therefore they did it. And Hashem got very upset. And Hashem told them that when you have this type of behavior, the kahuna Gdoila is going to be taken away from your branch of the family, and it's going to be returned to the family that showed me respect. What family showed Hashem respect? It's referring to Pinchas. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron a Kohen. We know that Pinchas originally was not a Kohen, and because he avenged and he stood up for the Kiddush Hashem, for Hashem's kavod, Hashem made him a Kohen. And because of that, his descendants became Kehanim. And eventually, when Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis HaMikdash, Hashem took someone from the family of Pinchas to be the Kohen Gadol, as opposed to the family of Eli, because they did not show respect to the Eibishter. So we see from that pasuk that Kol Mechabdei Achabed, that Hashem brings kavod to those that show him kavod. So the same thing over here, that by respecting others, that's how we get respect. In other words, a simple taich of the Mishnah is that we're comparing the way we're using what they call a kal v'chomer. We learn a lesson and say, if Hashem shows respect to those that show him respect, and he's truly deserving of respect, because they express their respect to Hashem, so Hashem respects them, so too it will happen to us. If we show other people respect, then Hashem will show, then we will get respect from others as well. But there's no intrinsic connection between showing other people respect and the respect that we get for respecting Hashem. That's the simple taich of the Mishnah. However, the Mefarshim tell us that it's really, really much deeper than that. What does it mean that it's much deeper than that? The Mefarshim tell us that Hashem, we're talking over here about Ben Zoyma. Ben Zoyma is giving a much deeper understanding of Avos Yisrael, respect for others, than you may have thought on your own. And that is by bringing the pasuk, which is referencing the respect we show Hashem, and therefore Hashem respects us. He's giving us a deeper insight into Avos Yisrael. In order to explain this, I want to remind everybody of a very interesting story that one time some of the Chassidim asked the Alter Rebbe, what's greater, Avos Hashem or Avos Yisrael? Loving Hashem or loving a Yid? Now, this conversation happened on various times, and there were various answers given. But at one point, the Alter Rebbe answered, don't you realize that inside every Yid is a neshama? And therefore, this neshama is chelek elikam yimal mamish. It's mamish. The neshama is a pintle Yid, is one with the Eibishter. It's a piece of the Eibishter. And therefore, by having Avos Yisrael, you are having Avos Hashem, because you're loving the Hashem that's inside that Yid. You're loving that neshama, which is a chelek elikam yimal mamish. You're loving the neshama, which is inside that Yid. So therefore, if you think about it, what Ben Zoyma is really teaching us, is that when you love a Yid, it's your way of expressing your love and respect for Hashem. When you're mechabed es habriyos, let's break it down for a moment. Briyos, the term briyos many times is talking about a Yid that has no external qualities. The only quality he has is that he's a creation of Hashem. He's a Bria. He's a creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is his quality. So why should somebody show respect to someone that on his own doesn't deserve respect? Seemingly, this person has not earned my respect. So why am I respecting that person? Because I'm respecting the Creator. I'm respecting the neshama that's inside this person. This person deserves the dignity as being a creation of Hashem, and if he's a Yid, he has an chelek elikam yimal mamash. He has a chelek of Hashem. And therefore, the respect that you're showing to another Yid is the respect that you're showing to the Eibishter. And that's what we're trying to bring out from the pasuk. The pasuk says that those that respect Hashem, Hashem shows respect back. So that's the proof. That's not an example to learn out, to extrapolate. According to this approach of the Tiferes Yisrael and other Mefarshim, this is the message of Ben Zoyma. That when you show love to that Yid, that Briyos, you're respecting Hashem. And by respecting Hashem, that person, therefore you get the respect as well. Because Hashem shows respect to those that respect him. And it really goes even a step further. And I hope I'm not going too deep, but it really goes a step further. The Mefarshim tell us, based on a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. We have a Mishnah in our Pirkei Avos. The Pirkei Avos tells us, Shekol Masha Bara Kodesh Baruch Hu B'Olamai, everything that is created in this world, Lo Bra L'Chvoidoi, is created to bring kavod to Hashem. Which means that every person, every creation in this world has the capacity to bring kavod, to give kavod to the Eibishter, because that's its DNA. The only reason it was created was to give kavod to the Eibishter. That is its mission. That is its essence. The essence of a Yid, the essence of a creation of the Eibishter is to give kavod to Hashem. And therefore, if its essence is giving kavod to Hashem, what does Hashem say about those that give him kavod? I will show kavod. So by you respecting a yid, you're respecting someone that the Eibishter himself shows kavod to, because every yid is created to give kavod to Hashem. So when you realize that everything in this world is here to serve Hashem and here to give kavod to Hashem, then you understand why you have to show respect. Because let me explain this a little bit more. There is a very puzzling Gemara. The Gemara is talking about the bracha of Chacham Harozim. When you see 600,000 Yidden, you're supposed to make a special bracha that the Eibishter, created all these, various mindsets and different perspectives. And the Eibishter is the Yidei Hakel. The Eibishter has everything, and he was able to give over this wisdom to everyone, to the so many Yidden. So the Gemara in Brachas tells us a story like this. Tanu Rabbanon, Chachamim tell us, Haroya Uchlasi Yisrael, someone that sees so many Yidden, he says, Baruch Chacham Harozim, he makes this bracha. Shein daitem doima zelazeh, each one's das is different one from the other. Vein partzufeim doima zelazeh, each one's face is different one from the other. Ben zoima ra uchlasa gabe maila bahar habayis. Ben zoima once saw 600,000 Yidden when he was climbing the Har HaBayis, and he said, Baruch Chacham Harozim, blessed the Eibishter, Ubaruch Shabara Kol Eila L'Shamsheni. And I bless the Eibishter that he created all these people which end up serving me. He says, this one does this and this one does that. At the end, he says, I benefit. Adam Arishan had to work hard, he had to bake, he had to do this, he had to do that. He was in the world alone. He says, I'm a rich person and I have the money. So therefore, all my needs are done by all the various professionals that are there in the world. So it comes out that everyone that was created, in a way, I benefit from. Which that seems like a little bit, when you read it and you just read it on its simple level, a little self-centered, you might say. Now, I wouldn't use the word narcissistic, but a little bit self-centered, that someone can say that everyone was created, Ella L'Shamsheni, everyone was created to serve me. Like, that seems to be not exactly a very edel way of talking. But the Nekuda is that if you understand that L'Shamsheni doesn't necessarily mean that it's serving him. In a broader sense, Ben Zoimo is the one that understood that everything was here, everyone like bra ala lechvoide, everything was here to serve the Eibishter. Well, help the tzaddik, you're helping the Eibishter. It's not about him. He recognized that everyone is here to give kavod to Hashem. And if everyone is here with a mission and a purpose to serve the Eibishter, so then we understand that Hashem respects them. And when you show respect to another Yid, Hashem will then respect you, because you're giving respect to those that respect him. What is the kavod that you get? What is the kavod? If I give kavod to somebody else, when I say that we're looking for kavod, is it honor? Honor is not a good thing to chase. Hakina v'atayva v'akavod moitziin es ha'adam min ha'olam. Chasing kavod removes you from the world. People get sick from being slighted, from being, they take themselves so serious, any perceived slight, and they go meshuga. And it's a terrible thing that's how certain people are. Their chase for kavod is so strong. And therefore, we try to stay away from kavod. So what type of kavod are we getting? What does that mean practically? What's the takeaway? When we say that if you show respect for others and you recognize that they have an neshama, that you yourself, the person himself, will get kavod. What type of kavod are we referring to? What's the What does that covet look like? Does it mean honor? Does my name going to be on a wall? My name's going to be all over the place. People are going to say ooh about you. What is the covet that we're looking for? So the Mefarshim, listen to this lashon, just so beautiful. This is from the Tiferes Yisrael, and I'm quoting because the quote is so important. He says, "V'ner elikim asher b'kirboy, hamer lo'elam kulei b'chvoidoi." The neshama, the fire, the torch of the Eibishter, which is inside the person, which has the capacity to give light to everyone around him. Yimavik kavuka behira mehira yoisem asher yikava mitivoy. Will be able to be flaming so strong more than you thought naturally, which means, unfortunately, our natural instinct is that we are insensitive to the needs, desires, and inclinations of our neshama. We live in a physical, coarse world, and the level of refinement that we should be in tune naturally with our neshama, and that our neshama zol leichten, the neshama should be lit up and bright and pashat shining, and that those around us should sense our neshama. And more important, that we should sense our neshama. And we should be in tune and sensitive to the needs, desires, and real goals of our neshama is the greatest gift that we can ask, that we should be eis edel. Because sometimes you speak to a person, the person is so coarse. Try to explain to them a refined idea and why this is not a good idea for your neshama. They're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Where does it say it's usser? But it may not say it's usser. It's still not proper. Still sapasnished. It's not befitting a yid to act this way. Well, why not? Why not? They're just so coarse. They're not in touch with their neshama. When someone is mechabed others because he recognizes that they have a neshama, he recognizes that they are part of the Eibishter. Hashem gives them the greatest gift of kavod. The greatest gift of kavod is that your neshama is bright, and you're sensitive, and those around you become sensitive to the neshama that's inside you, which is one of the greatest gifts that we can be. Now, I want to go even a step further, a step deeper. But before I do that, I want to share a concept and a muscle that's quoted by the Maram Shik. And he gives a very interesting perspective on our Mishnah, which, whether that's the exact taich of the Mishnah, everyone can decide for themselves. But the idea is so geschmack that I just don't want to not share it. He says like this: someone walks into a kingdom and he sees everybody respecting a king, sees everybody respecting the leader. And a person can ask themselves the question. And the question is, how do I know if they are showing respect out of admiration, out of love, out of respect, or are they showing respect out of fear? Because if they don't respect the king, if they don't show respect, they can be punished severely for not showing respect to the king. How does one judge when respect is given to someone? Is that person worthy of the respect, or is that person not worthy, but is just being feared? What's the Even HaBoichen? What is the exact word in English? I'm missing the exact word in English. Even HaBoichen. What is the way that we can actually, on our own, so to speak, as an outsider, when we see respect being shown to somebody, how do we know what type of respect it is? Is it earned respect or is it feared respect? And Ramshik says the answer is given by seeing the respect that people have to those which are connected to the king. Meaning, the king has a brother. Let's talk yesterday. Yesterday was the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's brother, Rabbi Yisrael Aryaleib. Rabbi Yisrael Aryaleib was far from a Rebbe. Rabbi Yisrael Aryaleib, when you looked at him externally, you know, he didn't come across as a very chassidish Yid, especially later on in life. His wife was from a more secular, doesn't matter. He passed away, learning mathematics in Liverpool, England, and he was buried that ever brought him to Tzfas. So he's not someone that, so to speak, would sit by a Fabrengen and say, oh, I want my children to be named after this person, Yisrael Aryaleib. Like, he's not so going to say, wow, this person wrote a sefer, this person, a tzaddik, blah, blah, blah. You could build up. Someone that on an external level, regular at best, a Balabat Shayid, who had a holy Zayda, the Tzemach Tzedek, who had a holy father, the Blevik, but on his own seemed to be just a regular Yid. Yet, Chassidim, they'll give a name, Yisrael Aryaleib, and they'll go daven by the Yisrael Aryaleib's kever. Why? Because he's the Rebbe's brother. And therefore, by being connected to the Rebbe, anyone that's connected to the Rebbe is deserving of respect. In the Alta Polish Chassidim, this is what I heard, which is tremendous. You would have Ziknei Chassidim, the elders of Chassidim, that would stand up if the young Einikel of the Rebbe would walk into the room. And the Einikel could be a child. But if the Einikel of the Rebbe would walk into a room, these elder Chassidim would stand up. Not because this kid did anything special, but he is a Einikel from Rebbe. And our love and our respect to the Rebbe is so real that anyone that's blood with our Rebbe is by us worthy of respect, kishela atzmai. Not because of the accomplishments of that individual, but the very fact that he's represents and he's connected to the Rebbe. I don't want to say names, but the chassid Avram Mayor, there was a certain chassid who was a big Oivid Hashem, big chassid, but Avram Mayor did not like that person's avodah, for whatever reason. And it was known that every time they sat by Fabrengen, Rabbi Avram Mayor would explain to him in real clear oisius why he felt that his friend's avodah was not the derech that was demanded. One time, the Frierdiker Rebbe sent this other chassid to the city of Rav Avram Mayor to collect money, whatever it was, maybe establish a cheder. Don't remember exactly what the reason he was sent. And once he was in the city, came to Fabrengen, and Avram Mayor sat like a tatala. He was quiet and he listened. He sat like a tata. And the whole city was very surprised. Everyone knew that every time these two sat by a Fabrengen, Avram Mayor would take him to task for whatever he felt was not the shleimus ha'avodah. And afterwards, a chassid from the city went over to him and said, Avram, why did you sit so quiet? He said, what do you mean? In this time, he came as a shliach of the Rebbe. So out of respect for the Rebbe, I have respect for his shluchim. In other words, it's not about him as an individual anymore. It's about who he represents. And the moment you think about that, all of a sudden, it's not about the individual. If you truly love the one he represents, you're going to show respect to him as well. As we are in the Fabrengen mode, I'll tell you another story. Even though this is a shir, it's not a Fabrengen of stories, but I'm trying to bring out the point. And this I heard from Chassid, whose story happened with his grandfather, that when Tomchei Tmimim needed money, so the Frierdiker Rebbe sent a bocher to the Blevik's house, the Rebbe's father's house, to collect money from the city. Now, usually the Shadar, the one that would get the money, was a respected elder Chassid representing Chassidus. When he knocked on the door and Reb Leivik answered, and he saw that was a bacher, he went inside the house, and this bacher hears Reb Leivik telling someone in the house, Das Shikter Mir. This is where Lubavitch is holding. We're being sent Bachrim to represent Lubavitch. Like, this is an insult that we have such Bachrim. They represent, this is the new way of Lubavitch. And he hears a voice answer, which later he found out was the Reb Leivik's older son, the Rebbe's voice. And the Rebbe tells his father, Tate, dear father, Kuk nishtaf em. Don't look at him. Kuk evemenatem geschikt. Look at the one that sent him. Don't see the him as the bacher. Yeah, he probably is a bacher like every other bacher. Don't view him as a bacher. View him in the eyes of the one that sent him. Look as if you're looking at the Rebbe. And Leivik was very taken by that, and he went around with this bacher, and they raised a lot of money together. Because someone that you truly respect, you know what the sign is, how you know if you truly respect that person has earned the respect of his followers. See if his people in his kingdom respect the circle around him. Those people, they're not afraid of. No one's afraid of the Rebbe's brother. No one's afraid of the Rebbe's Einaklach. There's no fear. But if you truly respect someone, you'll respect anyone in the circle of that person. However, someone that you only respect out of fear, the moment it's not that person, so then I don't have to show respect. So says Ben Zoyma, Eizehu mechubad. How do you know if someone's truly deserving of the respect that he's given? You see somebody getting respect, it doesn't mean that he's mechubad. It doesn't mean he's earned the respect of the people. As an outsider, how do you know if someone getting respect has earned the respect? Hamechabed es habriyos. If you see the people showing respect to the briyos around that person, if his circle is being shown respect because of him, that means that he truly earned the respect of his chassidim, his followers, his kehila, because they respect him so much that they'll respect anyone that's connected to him. Just something to think about. It's just a very profound idea. If that was clear, if someone could put a check up that was understood. But now I want to go, because we are in the proximity of Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is the time of the revelation of Pnimius HaTorah, of Shimon Bar Yochai, the Zohar. So we have to learn this Mishnah a little bit according to Pnimius, a little bit deeper. The Arizal, the Helika Arizal, was once giving a shir on this Mishnah. And we have recorded, documented, a little bit about the shir of the Arizal. Does anyone want to hear how the Arizal taught this Mishnah to his Talmidim, according to Kabbalah? The Arizal told his Talmidim, and everyone should think about this when we learn Pirkei Avos this week. He said that there are 4 things mentioned in the Mishnah. We have Chacham, we have Gibor, Oshir, and Kavod. 4 inyonim mentioned in the Mishnah. He says each one of those 4 things represent one letter of the Eibishter's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Not only do they represent it, that's the main intent of Ben Zoyma. Ben Zoyma was Nichnas Lepardes. He was someone that learned Pnimius HaTorah. He went into the secrets of the Torah of Akiva. He is actually referencing the 4 letters of the Eibishter, Not only is he referencing the four letters of the Eibishter, says the Arizal to his Talmidim, when you learn the Mishnah, you must think of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. When you actually learn the Mishnah and you learn about the four components of the Mishnah, Chacham, Giber, Ashir, Mechubad, think about Yud Kei Vav Kei. Can you imagine that you actually have to consciously think about the Eibishter's name when you are learning our Mishnah? And what is Ben Zoyma? What is Ben Zoyma telling us? Ben Zoyma is telling us that if you want to understand Yud Kei Vav Kei, if you want to understand how the Eibishter's various components of name of the Eibishter operates, the Eibishter gave us in this world examples to exemplify these four inyanim: Chacham, Gibor, Asher, Mechubad. By understanding each of these four things, the way they operate in a person, in its truest sense, then you can actually understand the Eibishter. In other words, according to the Arizal, the entire Mishnah of Ben Zoyma is here to give you an understanding in Hashem. How does Yud Kei Vav Kei operate? Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina, Vav are the Midos, the final Hey is Malchus. How do these things operate? You want to know how they operate? Learn from the four Mishalim that we have in ourselves. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire shir of the Arizal, just what he says about Mechubad, which he says that the same way, the way that Hashem wants you to get covered is by being mechabed other people. So too, Sfiras HaMalchus, which is the final Hey, where does it bring covered to the Eibishter? Sfiras HaMalchus is the Sfira that actually creates Olam Haza Agashma. And seemingly it doesn't want to lower itself to create this physical world. But it's only in this physical world, the world of Briyos, where the Dira B'tachtoinim can actually happen. The Eibishter's Dira can only happen in this world, in the physical world. So Eizahu Mechubad, when the Sfiras HaMalchus really serve its purpose, when it's Mechabed es Habriyos, when it comes down to create this physical world, because it's specifically in this physical world where the Dira, the greatest covet to the Eibishter, V'ro kol boso yachtav kepi Hashem diber, u'mala aretz deyas Hashem, that all happens in this world. The greatest revelation of all time of Gilui Elikus is not in the higher worlds. It's going to happen in this world, B'vias HaMashiach. In what we look at as darkness, as what we look at as Briyos, Ben Zoyma brings or, Ben Zoyma brings light, and says, see Elikus in this world, see the Dira that can be made in this world. And that's very much connected to the most famous teaching of Ben Zoyma. We know Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says a Mishnah in Brachas, we say it in the Agada, Harei ani kiven shivim shana, I'm like 70 years old, I wasn't zoich, I wasn't able to figure out how to prove that we should bring and say Shema, we should say Yetzias Mitzrayim even at night, not just by day. And what happened? What changed? Until Ben Zoyma came along. And he said, the Pasuk says, you should remember the day that you left Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayecha, all the days of your life, which, just some history, this Lag BaOmer, we know is 50 years when the Rebbe introduced the second half of the 12 psukim. The first 6 were on the beginning of Iyar, Tavshem Amud Vav, 50 years ago. And the third pasuk speaks about Yetzias Mitzrayim, B'chol dor v'dor, Chayev Odom liris es atzmai, Kilo Yatzam Mitzrayim. When the Rebbe originally taught it, he actually said that we should say Lemantiske Shem Tzescha Meretz Mitzrayim Kol Yemei Chayecha. That was the pasuk. Later on, it was switched to B'chol dor v'dor. But regardless, we have an extra word Kol in the Kol Yemei Chayecha. Comes along Ben Zoyma. Ben Zoyma says Yemei Chayecha Hayomim, that the You have to say Shema, that's by day. Kol yemei chayecha lahavi aleilos. Even at night, the word kol is teaching you that you say Yitzias Mitzrayim, you say Shema at night. That's what's Ben Zoyma really saying. Ben Zoyma is really saying that in a person's life, there's day and there's night. There's times when we're inspired, that's day, and there's times that we feel like dark. We feel like we're at night. We feel lost. Ben Zoyma had the koyach because he learned Pnimius HaTorah to bring Yitzias Mitzrayim even baleilos, even in darkness. You should see, not only should you not be nispal from the dark, you should see leilos as an opportunity to bring Yitzias Mitzrayim, to bring the Geula. Yitzias Mitzrayim is baleilos, which is really what he's saying in our Mishnah. That Sfiras HaMalchus says, I should go create this physical world. I should create Brios. I should create this physical world. This physical world is seemingly not against, but doesn't identify with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Eibishter says, no. You want Mashiach, you want Dira B'Tachtoinim, that's going to happen in this physical world. That's where the real kavod is going to happen. And this is a tremendous lesson for each and every one of us. Sometimes we feel put off to deal with a Yid that may not look like he's involved in Torah mitzvahs, he may not look inspired, he may look like somebody that we should really give up on because he's only a brios. Ben Zoyma says, don't forget, in that brios, there's a neshama. If you want your neshama to shine, be mekarev that neshama. And if you want Yitzias Mitzrayim, if you want Geula to come, bring Yitzias Mitzrayim baleilos, by actually working with that Yid, by actually taking that brios and giving him the recognition of the Eibishter, by making a Dira B'Tachtoinim, that's where the real Gili Alikus happens. And that comes by learning Pnimius HaTorah, which again, Lag BaOmer is the Rosh Hashanah of Pnimius HaTorah, the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the Zohar, Limud HaChassidus, Limud HaPnimius. When you see the Pnimius, you don't get stuck by the externals. You don't just see the person's actions and what he did, what he didn't do, how much Gan Eden, Gehenim. You don't see the checklist, you see the neshama. That comes from learning Pnimius HaTorah. That comes from Ben Zoyma. So each and every one of us, I hope, after this year, we can actually realize that Ezehu Mechubad, if you want your own neshama to have a sensitivity to Getlachkeit, go be Mechabes Abrias, go reveal the neshama in other people. When you can see and you can reveal the neshama in other people, that will bring out your neshama as well. That will bring Yitzias Mitzrayim baleilos. That will bring the Geula to the world. A good Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Thank you very much. Good Shabbos, happy Pesach Sheni, and thank you so much. Yishar Koach.
Thank you. It was a great share.
Very welcome. Any other questions?
Yes.
Feel free to ask.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you were saying that if people respect the king, or they're not afraid of the king, then they'll show it to the people